over 365,000 views on just this video on women in refrigerators. And she made, like I said, over $300,000 in fundraising campaign efforts. She's invited to speak on college campuses. She's obviously deemed important enough that the UN would invite her to come speak on women's issues. That's why this matters. That's why we need to look at this issue critically. That's why we need to pick it apart. That's why you guys need to pick my arguments apart. Not just hers, but mine as well. Take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusion, and don't just support it. Don't just look at things that confirm your opinion. That's the problem. So as we've seen here, without someone like her she's made $300,000, maybe put a moderate amount of that money into production value and pocketed the rest of the money, and she's become rich. Arguably much richer than I'll ever be, and much more successful in this digital medium, which ironically she alleges discriminates against women, or women like her allege that discriminate against women. So an individual like this will say women in this kind of field, in the digital field, are discriminated against, and they're not allowed to be here. Or they're kept away by casual sexism or something like that. But then she'll probably, a person like this will probably be more successful than I'll ever be, a man, which is really ironic. So I'm going to take a pause and read some of this thing. Nobody in games actually cried about it. Her audience is just a feminist herd, and her talks in a positive way about the games. There is no spike in sales. However, if people like Total Biscuit talk in a positive way about a game, there is a spike in sales. What do you mean by that? You don't, step on, try, I know we're funny, but I want to keep this as clean as possible, so no, like, racist remarks, bro. Some people, I know you, so I understand you. You don't offend, I don't get offended by stuff, but other people find that offensive, so just be careful what you're saying. Legendary Glowing Ghoul, what do you say? Hi there, how are you doing this fine night? Hope your day went wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Legendary Ghoul. Thank you for joining the conversation. We are actually on part 3 of this podcast. I would encourage anybody just joining us now to please look at, after the video is done, when you have time, to go back in the video and watch the podcast in its entirety, so you're not this whole thing isn't being taken out of perspective, because it's very easy to misconstrue what I'm saying. But if you're only watching this part of the podcast, I had done the first part of this podcast examined a lot of arguments saying that there's a lot of sexism involved in media portrayal toward women, and I think there's a lot of accurate statements there. I would ask you to go back and look at that. Censor her critics. Yes, Stepan, you're right. No, she didn't beg. She did, and I wouldn't even say go as far as suggested. She said it's like their moral obligation to implement these types of censors in the media. She did not beg anything. She knew exactly what she was doing. No. She played on there. If you watch the video of her at the UN, if you listen to when her and Zoe Quinn are talking, you can see all the people in the audience nodding their head like, oh yeah, that's good. That's a really good argument. Oh yeah. She does not beg. She tells them to. It is our moral obligation to do this, and we need to do this. We need to protect these people. Should people be protected against doxing? Fuck yes, they should. Nobody deserves to have their information spanned all across the internet, their private information. Nobody deserves to be told, I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to stalk you. I'm going to break into your house. I'm going to hold a knife to your throat. I am going to force myself on you in a sexual manner, and then I'm going to take advantage of you, and then I'm going to murder you, and then I'm going to murder and do the same thing to your dog and the rest of your family. Those kinds of people that say shit like that need to be held accountable. There is those kinds of things are said. People say horrible things like, this person gave me cancer, this person has cancer, blah blah blah, or whatever. Those comments are toxic and they're stupid, but I don't think they weigh in the severity of someone saying something like, I'm going to come into your house and do these things. That is a threat. Now, regardless if these people never intended of acting upon that threat, those threats need to be taken seriously, because unfortunately we live in such a fucked up world that people do stuff like that. There was that young man in Santa Monica, and I think he went to the community college. And actually, Gabby, you might know more about this more than me, because he was in your area. There was a young man who he was actually I think he was I don't know what ethnic minority he was. Bye, Shays. Thank you so much for stopping in. I was lovely talking with you. This young man said that he drove his car into a crowd of people and he killed like 3 people and he injured a dozen more or something like that. But he was this young kid, and this kid was clearly sociopathic. He injured and killed some people, and he said that he did it because women didn't go on dates with him. And he specifically said he hated women because they didn't look at him in a sexual way when he deserved to be looked at in that way. He's like, I am deserving of sex. I am deserving of sex from these women because I'm an attractive, affluent male. I have money, and I'm a good student, and I'm handsome, and they should like me. I'm entitled to having sex with these women. And because he was obviously mentally unstable, probably a lot of women didn't find him all that attractive because of how aggressive and creepy he probably came across. He decided to drive his car into and kill a bunch of people. Santa Barbara. Okay, not Santa. I knew it was Santa something. Santa Barbara. Okay. Speaking. Okay. Legendary Glowing Ghoul. So Legendary Glowing Ghoul asks. He said, "What do you think about this whole idea of Hollywood remaking movies with all female casts? Is this equal treatment, or do you believe it's pure feminism over the media?" What I think it is, Legendary, I think it's pandering to a demographic, and what they're trying to say is like, well, we're out of fresh ideas. What can we do to relaunch an old movie like Ghostbusters? What can we do to trump up new media? Like, how can we bring in a new audience? How can we make it for today's generation? If you look at the old Ghostbuster films, I don't think that they particularly need to be remade. That is a story that can be told time and time and again, and people can watch it and find enjoyable. The jokes are funny. The action is funny. It's a fun movie that deals with ghosts in not a serious way, and it's fun. Now, there are some sexist jokes in it, actually. There are some elements of sexism that you might say, but that doesn't change the fact that it's an enjoyable movie that many people have enjoyed for years to come, or for years and for years to come. Now, Hollywood likes to get into these, in my personal opinion, I feel like they feel like, well, we gotta market this movie for today's audience. Well, what are people saying? Well, a lot of people aren't represented in these movies, and we need to have more positive female role models in Hollywood. So they'll take the entire cast of Ghostbusters and make them females. Personally, I think that is sexist. Personally, because you're completely changing a story, an original storyline, the Ghostbusters, about 4 male scientists and their wacky companions, and you're saying we're gonna make this for today's audiences, and they all gotta be female because we need to make it inclusive because of these people. To me, that seems a form of reverse sexism. So, in an attempt to make it more inclusive, they are it's like congratulating a person because they are something. If you watch the movie Galaxy Quest, there's a very specific part in this movie, Galaxy Quest, that I absolutely love. It's a very, very subtle joke that not a lot of people pick up on. It's really funny. When Alan Rickman walks out of the pod, when they crash back to land to Earth, and everybody's clapping, the announcer guy that announces Alan Rickman's character, I forgot his name in Galaxy Quest. He says, give him a hand. He's British. Okay, you don't clap for someone because they're white. You don't give someone a hand because they're British. You don't give someone a hand because they're a man or because they're a woman. You clap for someone because they've created an amazing work of art. They've performed an amazing, beautiful piece of classical music on the piano. And it required a lot of discipline and talent to be able to play that music. You congratulate a person for overcoming, like, maybe prejudices and achieving success, not because they are black, but because they are an intelligent, capable human being. Being black has very little it's one aspect of who they are as an individual, okay? Or being a female, being a male is one aspect of what makes us a unique person. And yes, those things play a huge factor on how we interact with people and our experiences in the world. But that's only one small aspect of us. And if we are going to pigeonhole ourselves, our own identities, based on our genders, then I think that's a disservice. So if we say we need to make movies with more women in it for the sake of just having women in it, I think that's disingenuous. I think the movies that are made that feature strong female characters should be made because they want to be made, because people want to make them, because they find this character interesting and intriguing. A character like Ripley, when these topics on sexism weren't pervading the social media like they do now, a person like Ripley, Lieutenant Ripley? Is it Lieutenant Ripley from the Alien saga? She is an example of a strong female protagonist, as I've said, in the movie. And so is Nancy. Nancy? What's her name? From Nancy Thompson from Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are two female protagonists in which, yes, they're attacked. They might interact with males, or men might seem stronger physically than them in some of these circumstances. But these women are fucking badasses in their own right. They stand out. Nobody catered to them. It wasn't given. This movie wasn't created to pander to a demographic. No, somebody sat in a room. Some writer sat in a room and said, you know, it would be a good idea if there was this group of people and they went to this planet and there was these xenomorphs, these aliens that were face suckers, and they drop an alien pod in the belly and it bursts out and it kills everybody and it starts going this homicidal murder rage. And then there's this badass character that saves them. Who is this? Let's make it let's make her like she's a girl. She's a scientific engineer. I don't remember Ripley's exact job in Aliens. I don't remember what she was actually assigned to do in Aliens. But she ends up being the heroine in the story when all the rest of the male cast gets murked. And she's the last survivor, or she's a survivor, one of the only survivors in each of the two installments of the franchises. And, through the Alien franchises, the 1 through 4. And she holds it together than a lot of the men in the movie. Like I said, when Bill Paxton's character in Aliens freaks out, he's like, "Game over, man! Holy shit!" And he's freaking out, and he's like, "We're gonna die!" He's panicking. There was a man panicking. And then Ripley held it together. She rallies the troops. She gets them out of there. She's smart enough to say, like, "We gotta go. We gotta bug out." That is an example of an original female character being created, not because they were targeting a demographic, but because I think whatever writer sat down and created that story thought of a unique character and said, this is awesome. And it wasn't just because she was female. It's because she was a cool character, and her gender had very little to do with making her badass and cool. That is my opinion on the take in kind of Hollywood. So making a movie with women in it just to have women in it, in my opinion, is sexist. I don't feel like they should do that. Well, Stepan, here's the thing. You said if you punish people for saying words. The thing is that words carry weight behind them. Now, I don't get offended by certain things, okay? I understand you, dude. And I want you around. I've always valued your opinion, and I think you're a very agreeable person. Other people don't know you like I do. Okay, they might just walk in and they see one context of something that you're writing, and they'll judge you based on that one context. So you have to be